Again, in and of itself, not a particularly significant looking thing. You know, we have a lot of documents in the museum, but this one's kind of special. This is the original invasion plans for the invasion of Southern Europe, something called Operation Dragoon. At one time, they were planning on invading Southern Europe and Normandy at the same time, but it was only the lack of resources that later on this happened, I think, in August 44 rather than in June. Particularly significant if you're from Texas or Oklahoma, because there was a lot of Texas and Oklahoma divisions that took part, and that's why you find so many graves as you work your way up through France, up, you know, towards the Battle of the Bulge and, you know, the Vosges Mountains, and up in that area where they joined with Third Army, you know, Patton, and, you know, carried on through the Ruhr into Germany. What's unusual about this is these are the last copy. There was what was it, 69 copies, and this is, no, 60 copies, and this 45. So there wasn't a lot of these documents. This had the highest security classification at the time. So it's a miracle it survived. I don't know how it survived, because it should have been destroyed, but it didn't. And this document outlines exactly how they're going to invade Southern Europe, where the landing craft are going to go in, what units, how the units are allocated. And obviously I've read books, contemporary books and other books that talk about it, but to actually hold a field order in your hand that outlines the mechanics of how it's done, and this is the blueprint that someone read when they said, oh yeah, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. That's a little bit different. That, again, it goes back to that tangible link back to the event, to history. And I start thinking about vets that took part in that operation. I mean, ultimately, you know, in the end, Audie Murphy, way later in the war, in the Ruhr, you know, when they invaded Germany, he was awarded his Medal of Honor, you know, as part of one of the old Texas divisions. But I start thinking of people, and you start thinking of places, and I was lucky enough when I was young and when I was in the military, spend a lot of time in France and Germany. So when I read this, you know, there were places that I knew. But of course now they're beautiful, you know, they're very pastoral and very peaceful, and I have a hard time, you know, seeing them here, where here they're artillery IP points, you know, where they're going to drop artillery or do something else. And I remember as lavender fields, or, you know, they're just, it's very, very difficult to reconcile the two things, you know. But this is a very, very important thing, and it ties into the mural that you see over my shoulder by Eugene Savage, which is a study for a 60-foot mosaic that's in France at a cemetery in Epernay. And it basically graphically illustrates the invasion of Southern Europe. But I think these guys are overshadowed a lot, because, you know, everyone talks about Normandy, D-Day, but, you know, these guys fought their way up through Europe too. You know, it was a yeah, they always felt like they were the poor cousin, the second cousin to the main deal, but what they did was amazing.